Today let's study Sutra number 20. What does it say? Shraddha Virya Smriti Samadhi Prajna Purvakaha itareśām. Shraddha means faith, trust. Virya means strength or energy. Smriti means remembrance. Samadhi means absorption. Prajna is wisdom. Samadhi Prajna is wisdom arising from Samadhi, and Purvaka is preceded by itareśām of others. Maharishi Ved Vyasa explains it as, for others it is preceded by faith, energy, memory, trance and discernment. And he explains each. Faith is the pleasing wishful contact of mind with the object of pursuit. It sustains the yogi like a mother. Energy is born in him who pursues knowledge with faith. So first comes faith. From faith is born energy. Memory comes to help when he is possessed of energy. And on the appearance of memory, the mind ceases to be disturbed and passes into Samadhi. When the mind is entranced, discrimination arises by which the mind knows an object as it is, and by constant practice of discrimination and desirelessness comes ultra-cognitive trance, that is the higher Samadhi. Swami Satyananda says, others. Now this is a continuation of the previous sutra, so he qualifies other than those disembodied and merged in Prakriti, attain, so they attain it by two objective existence and by practice. So others who are not them attain to asampragnata samadhi through the stages of faith, strong will, memory and intelligence derived from sampragnata samadhi or the lower samadhi respectively. The two types of yogis, namely Videha and Prakriti Laya, attain Samadhi right from birth. But those kinds of yogis are rare. You and I have a long way to go possibly to attain something like that. The vast multitude of aspirants have to go through regular practice of different techniques which are described in the sutra. And what are they? So they are basically Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Prajna, Purvaka, itareśām. The word Shraddha, he says, is made out of two parts. Shrad meaning truth and Dha meaning to hold. The Shraddha means that which holds the truth. And he says the translation as faith is actually very weak, because Shraddha, that is just faith, is like a blind, unaware sort of experience. But Shraddha in reality, he says, arises from experience. It never fails, and it is the first principle required in yoga. It is different from mere belief. Shraddha, he says, can only arise after a glimpse of the truth. And the example that he gives is how Swami Vivekananda and Swami Yogananda had a glimpse of the truth after meeting their gurus. It is just a glimpse, the beginning of the path of yoga. And what happens is the guru induces in the disciple an experience of truth or samadhi through his own power, and thus Shraddha arises. Next is Virya. He says Virya is energy, physical as well as mental, and in the context of samadhi it means courage through which we may overcome many impediments. It involves strong will and determination. One must continue on the path at any cost. The mind is to be properly controlled, which is then full of Virya. And he says even in the Vedas, there is a prayer in which the rishis ask for Virya and Ojas for achieving courage and energy. Third is memory. Smriti here actually means dhyana, in which the aspirant is able to remember the symbol and meditate upon it. Through Smriti, we can bring the realization of consciousness into the conscious field. Samadhi Prajna is very essential for attaining asampragnata samadhi. According to yoga, intelligence is of two types. One is the mundane intelligence by which we all lead our daily lives, and the second one is the intelligence of the higher consciousness. Right? It's not present in us, but we can develop it, and it leads us to it develops as a result of sampragnata samadhi, and it leads us into a sampragnata samadhi. He says once we develop this intelligence, the intelligence of the higher consciousness, progress takes place very fast. It presupposes spiritual realization. So, and he says Swami Vivekananda is one of the rare people who had this kind of intelligence, the higher intelligence, and could make spiritual progress, even though he seemed to have a lot of conflicting ideas in his mind. This is Swami Satyananda's words, not mine, regarding religion, God, human destiny, etc. So this Samadhi Prajna is a very peculiar faculty. It is the spiritual attitude that one develops due to the satsang, due to sort of the right company, the right environment, the right nurturing. Okay. Swami Vivekananda translates it as, to others this samadhi comes through faith, energy, memory, concentration and discrimination of the real. These are they who do not want the position of the gods. If you will remember in the previous one, the Videhis and the Prakriti Layas, they become the gods, they become the demigods, the disembodied. So he says these are they who do not want the position of the gods or even that of rulers of cycles. They attain to liberation. So Videhas and Prakriti Layas sort of get off this ascension. And they say, okay, we'll take up these positions of demigods and sort of intervene with nature and with human kind. But for those, somewhere these are described as distractions, right? They are on the way, so you have to take the effort to get off that plateau and sort of gain the complete kaivalya. BKS Iyengar says practice must be pursued with trust, confidence, vigor, keen memory and power of absorption to break spiritual complacency. So he says this sutra advises the advanced souls who have attained a certain level in samadhi. And what does it say? It's saying intensify your sadhana. Do not stop there. Redouble confidence, power, awareness, devotion. And Ved Vyasa calls this state upaya pratyaya, that is skillful means. Now, he says evolved souls have the ability to discriminate between isolation and emancipation. They are neither elated by the conquest of the elements nor delighted at the ability to move freely without bodies. Again, he is referring to Videhas and Prakriti Layas. They don't get excited by the development of these siddhis. They want to go ahead, they want to gain the liberation. So they intensify the practice. And here he tells the story of an individual in the Puranas known as Jada Bharati, who having reached a state of samadhi became cold and unemotional. He basically became isolated. And this is what Patanjali means, that the intermediate stage of samadhi can make you is anyaha or different. So Jada Bharata took 3 lives to come out of it. And he was the son of a Raja Rishi, and he was not at all involved, interested in kingly duties or those kinds of higher states. And he basically went through his life meditating in isolation. And he was, for instance, picked as a subject of human sacrifice. And but Kalima herself sort of manifested and saved him. And then in another place, the king sort of selected him to one of the people who were carrying the king's palanquins basically fell or was out of it. So they found him and they picked him and they asked him to carry, and he was not in step with them. And they scold him, and then he responds in a way that is extremely spiritually evolved, and he says, your insults affect my body, they do not affect me. And so the king realizes that this palanquin bearer is somebody who is highly evolved, and he bows to him. And with that, he is taken out of his isolation, and he is able to go to sage Kapila and search and listen and study and redouble his efforts. So the king was on his way to listen to a teaching of sage Kapila. This is the story that BKS Iyengar says, and he says it illustrates how the 5 dynamic qualities of faith, tenacity, perfect memory, absorption and awareness are necessary to hold on to what one has attained and to break out of that state of isolation, which is not freedom. Do not mistake, I think, what all the gurus are saying repeatedly here is, do not mistake spiritual isolation for freedom. You have to be able to recognize the difference. And BKS Iyengar says that Buddha also teaches in the Dhammapada, all sorrows can be conquered through good conduct, faith, enthusiasm, remembrance, concentration, and right knowledge. Shraddha, he says, should not be considered simply as faith. It also conveys mental and intellectual firmness. Virya stands for valor and power in the physical sense, and also in your nerve, in your resolve. The natural trust of the aspirant is confirmed by revelation and transformed into faith, which permeates the consciousness of practitioners in any field of art, science, and philosophy. If trust is instinctive, faith is intuitive. After describing unbiased bliss and spiritual aura in previous sutras, Patanjali described the felt trust in this sutra. Osho, who says that others who attain asampragnata samadhi attain through faith, effort, recollection, concentration, and discrimination. He says it's difficult to translate, so he will explain. And he says that Shraddha is not exactly faith, it is trust. And how does he explain this trust? He says to be religious doesn't mean to be Christian, Hindu, Muslim, or anything like that, right? He says birth cannot give you a religion. It can give you society, a creed, a sect. You are not born into a religion. The religion has to be born in you. This is trust. Again and again, you cannot give your children your religion. They'll have to seek and find their own. This is everybody's personal adventure. And you have to find the trust. Patanjali says this is the first thing if you want to attain asampragnata samadhi. Sampragnata samadhi, reasoning, right reasoning is important. But for asampragnata samadhi, you need trust. Okay? Shraddha is right trust. Faith is wrong trust. And Osho says, don't take your religion from anybody. You cannot borrow it. It is a deception. Smriti is remembrance, and he says basically we don't remember ourselves. We remember all other things, but we constantly are in a state of forgetting ourselves. Smriti is a phenomenon of self-remembering, and he says this is when subject and object are together in the consciousness. That is the most difficult thing in the world. So Shraddha, trust, virya, total commitment, total effort, total energy has to be all brought in. All your potentiality has to be brought in. If you are really a seeker after truth, you cannot seek anything else. It is not a part-time job. It is complete involvement. Concentration is part of it. It happens like a child who is engrossed in playing with something. He is not putting in some sort of effort because he is so absorbed. His concentration is there. That is samadhi. So samadhi happens automatically, spontaneously if you are absorbed. If you so in asampragnata samadhi, when trust is complete, when effort is total, when remembrance is deep, samadhi happens. Whatsoever you do with total concentration, without any effort. You just do the concentration, and discrimination, prajna, arises out of this. Prajna actually means, he says, wisdom, a knowing awareness. Buddha, and he says the Buddha has said that when the flame of meditation burns high, the light that surrounds that flame is prajna. Samadhi inside, and all around you, a light, an aura follows you. In every act, you are wise. Not that you are trying to be wise. It simply happens because you are so totally aware. Whatsoever you do, it becomes filled with prajna, wisdom. Okay. Barbara Stoller Miller says, the fivefold power of faith, heroic energy, mindfulness, contemplative calm, and wisdom parallels identical aspects of early Buddhist practice, and the view that right living and a long process of spiritual cultivation have the power to effect extraordinary mental transformations. These practices are contrasted with higher forms of mental exercise that Patanjali is about to reveal, in which the subliminal impressions instantly vanish. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this is helpful to you. Come back tomorrow for Sutra 21. Please do leave comments, questions, and do remember to hit subscribe. Thank you.